Hey everyone, and welcome back to 2047's favorite talk show, Dead Celebs. With our state-of-the-art technology, we can bring your favorite celebs back from the grave for an interview. On today's show, we have a former Prime Minister of Canada, Sir Wilfrid Laurier.
Happy to be here.
So, Mr. Laurier, why don't you tell me a bit about yourself?
All right. My name is Henry Charles Wilfrid Laurier. I was the 7th Prime Minister of Canada, right at the turn of the century. I came into power in 1896 and stayed there until 1911. Before I was the PM, I tried my hand at being both a lawyer and a journalist before I found my place in politics. I was a supporter of the Liberal Party, or the Party Rouge, as we used to call it.
So, on to your time as Prime Minister. What was it like at the beginning? Were you nervous?
Initially, I was intimidated by the thought of having to lead a country. I was not the wealthiest man, and a French Canadian had never been Prime Minister before. I considered leaving, but I decided to stick with it and try my best. I have always been honest and loyal, and I used those traits to help me when I was elected. I quickly became well-liked and respected by the people of Canada. I was described as charming and courteous, and one of the most polite and proper Prime Ministers that Canada has ever seen. My French heritage allowed me to connect with a demographic who thought themselves underrepresented, and gave them a voice. Furthermore, my ability to make powerful statements contributed to my initial success as Prime Minister, as I was always able to leave a lasting impression on people when they heard me speak.
Ah, I see. Let's hear about some of your greatest achievements during your time in office.
Where do I begin? First of all, I was the longest-serving Prime Minister of Canada. I was in office for 15 years straight, the longest unbroken term in Canadian history. That fact alone has ensured my place in the record books. I also was responsible for the immigration boom which kept Canada alive in the early 20th century. When I saw how Canada's small population may not survive, I knew we needed more people, and immigration was the way to do it. I appointed Clifford Sifton, who spearheaded the Last Best West campaign to get immigrants to come over to Canada. Sure, we may have lied a little on the posters and brochures, but the immigrants came all the same. If not for my focus on bringing immigrants to Canada back in the 1900s, who knows what Canada would be like today? My immigration campaign was the most successful in history. Also, while I was Prime Minister, I succeeded in creating 2 more provinces of Canada, Saskatchewan and Alberta. The introduction of these provinces expanded Canada's area and allowed for more people to come and settle on the prairies and know they're living in a province of Canada. Next, my government unified the country by constructing a transcontinental railway which allowed goods and people to easily get across the country. Our construction of this railway sparked the construction of multiple other transcontinental railways which brought even more parts of Canada together.
Wow, have you had any failures in your time as Prime Minister?
I have had a few. When I couldn't directly help the British Navy, I thought I was pretty smart when I made a small Canada-owned navy and allowed it to be placed under British control. However, this really backfired on me. French Canadians were up in arms that I would help the British. They thought Canada should have no part in Britain's affairs. If that wasn't bad enough, Britain wasn't happy with what I gave them, calling it a tin-pot navy and saying it was too little, too late. Furthermore, I reintroduced the idea of a reciprocity agreement between Canada and the United States to give free trade on Canada's natural resources. While initially the U.S. accepted my proposal, Canadians repudiated the agreement, especially the Conservatives. This ended up resulting in my downfall when Robert Borden was elected instead of myself in the 1911 election, and the Liberals losing their power to the Conservatives in the House of Commons.
That's a real shame. Can you tell me about some of your strengths and weaknesses as Prime Minister?
I'll start with my strengths, I guess. I have always been described as a brilliant orator, which made it very easy for me to clearly get my points across and make powerful statements to the public without seeming nervous or unsure of myself, even if I was at times. My confident persona made me seem reliable and trustworthy to my subjects. I also was always good at finding solutions to problems, either in international affairs or things more close to home. However, this also was a weakness of mine. Most of the solutions I found didn't favor one party over the other, and I instead made compromises. Unfortunately, these compromises often resulted in both sides feeling rather unhappy, and in the long run problems would return. I have even been called the Great Compromiser by some.
Wow, that is all very interesting. That's all the questions I have, so thanks for being here today.
Don't mention it.
After the break, I'll be sitting down with Tupac. Don't go anywhere.